Hello, and welcome to the 5 Core Life podcast with Will Moore, founder of More Momentum. Today, we are talking about how the lottery will ruin your life. You don't need to gamble on your future, and instead, you need to invest in yourself. Quick success will not lead to long-term success necessarily. And Josh Bardsley, who is the managing director of Avalanche Enterprises and serial entrepreneur, as well as an extremely young entrepreneur, talks about what he's learned in his early years of success. Him and Will go deep into all the things that you need to know in order to build a successful business and life. If you haven't already, go ahead and pound that subscribe button so you get notified when episodes air. Are you ready to fire on all cylinders? If so, let's go.
What's up, buddy?
Hey, how's it going?
Doing good, man. How are you?
Very, very good, thank you.
And where are you coming from today, dude? I hear some accentage.
I'm coming from the UK, so I'm actually in Reading at the moment, so just outside London, in a kitchen showroom, which is our kitchen company.
That's a nice kitchen, man. That's a nice
Well,
kitchen.
it's actually a few kitchens, so it's not quite just one. But yeah, I wish
Right.
it was one massive one, but it's not.
Right. Somebody's got a kitchen like that.
Oh yeah,
Somebody's got like multi kitchens in one room, because why not when you're a bazillionaire? So
why not?
managing director, marketer, investor, you own Avalanche, or you're a partner in Avalanche, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Capital Management. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background? And I know you're a young guy. Do you mind disclosing your age?
I'm 26, so
So I love this. I love these early success stories. But when did you start all this stuff? Like, when did you really start putting the pedal to the metal?
Yeah, so when I was 18, my dad was a franchisee of ActionCOACH. So ActionCOACH is like a big business coaching franchise. He came out of being a sales director in a quite a large company, and then bought a franchise in ActionCOACH, and basically asked me to help him. Well, I was at college and earning no money, and had no money as a legal student doing a law degree. And he asked me to basically help him, generate business through social media, because I was a kid and obviously
Right.
could understand social media. So this company back then was quite an old, lots of old guys, lots of dudes that didn't have any clue of how social media worked, that kind of thing. And immediately, kind of, it worked. And then the next day, another one of the coaches asked me to help them, and then another one asked me to help them. And fast forward 6 months, I was looking after maybe 20 different businesses, marketing efforts, one by myself in a dorm room, and kind of threw myself into education. I was given, obviously, the opportunity to read lots of books, and started reading a book a week, and everything just kind of started to compound and snowball, and realized quickly that I wanted to do business, instead of being a lawyer.
Yeah. Well, I shouldn't say the word lucked out. You are one of the fortunate ones in that you figured that out early. A lot of people listening here, and a lot of people that will listen once we put this on our old multi-channels. It's like you oftentimes do the thing you think you're supposed to, and then sometimes people never figure it out, which is really sad. Sometimes people figure it out, 10 years in, 15 years in, 20 years in, and there's nothing worse than just going through life doing something where you wake up and you're like, ugh, but it's decent money, so I'm going to keep doing it, right?
I agree.
And I want to point out, even though you're still really young, I mean, you started very young, and you kind of started to figure out the pieces of the puzzle, which is kind of the message I'm always pushing, which is like, the sooner the better. I'm always trying to get to these youngins, these Gen Zers, and say, look, guys, I know there's a million things coming at you in every direction. You need to figure out, focus. You're gonna change your goals, but you got to at least have a direction you're headed in, and figure out what your strengths are, your passions, and start going in that way, versus just sort of being pulled as a victim in every sort of direction.
Totally. And I think that the education side of it was the main thing for me. So, like, just kind of, I just went to every single seminar, every single webinar, every single book I could get my hands on. And the more I started to learn, the more I just got into business and reading about buying businesses and running business. I was just like, wow, this is insane. And again, I couldn't afford to do any of these things. I couldn't afford to go to watch Robert Kiyosaki or someone do a seminar. It was like $3,000. So I decided to just volunteer and work the events for like 3 days straight, and then ended up spending time with Robert on my own for hours. So, it's just putting yourself in these different situations and not saying like, oh, I'm from this space. I don't have any cash. I don't have any money to do the education. I don't have access to books. Like it's all there, and you can make it happen if you want to. You just got to get the bug.
Well, that's it. So you're talking about, right, you're the growth owner, right? You said, okay, well, I can either sit around and hope something happens for me. Maybe one day I win the lottery or it falls into my lap, or you can go out and do it. And your path is very similar to mine. I got the bug too in college. I was your typical fixed victim, and I got to a suicidal point in my life. It was so bad. I was just like, my brain's broken. It's like, what's the point? And I serendipitously discovered my own book, which kind of shifted my thinking. A lot of my followers know it. It's called How to Win Friends and Influence People, which is still holds up today, written in, I think, the 30s or 40s.
Great book.
Carnegie. And it just introduced me to these principles and like looking at life differently. And I just became this insatiable self-help beast, kind of like you were saying, like devouring it and just getting my hands on anything I could. Right. Listening to, back then it was tapes, and then it evolved into CDs. A lot of the youngsters don't even know what these things are. But you guys have the fortune. It's easier than ever to get knowledge and information and just self-educate yourself. Whatever you're interested in, just go on Google and YouTube. You can download stuff, podcasts. It's all free, and you can just educate yourself and start learning. And that's everything. And people tend to forget that it's like, they just want that, right? We're in this instant generation. I just want to click a button and have it happen for me.
It's so much available right now. Like they can access it, and that's part of what we're doing in the foundation that I'm part of. Is kind of, when I grew up going through it, I had to. I mean, YouTube was around. Like those things were around, but it was before the whole kind of self-help motivational thing kicked off. To be honest, it was there was a small number of people that were really going for it, but it wasn't as big as it is now. And now it's just there at the touch of a finger, and you can get access to all this information. Like you got no excuse to not be a genius in the world of anything that you want to do.
I like that. I'm writing that down. I'm taking notes as we're talking. No excuse to not be a genius.
You got no excuse to not be a genius, for sure, in any chosen field.
And again, it goes back to like just believing like I can, just because I was. I was born blank slate like everybody else. And these people that achieve this stuff, as here you are, you're 26, people were probably like, oh, that luck. A lot of people, these victims are that lucky guy, he's young, he struck gold early. But no, I mean, you started at 18. It's been an 8-year journey, and it doesn't happen overnight. And you got to take small incremental steps, let the law of compounding kick in, do its thing. And it's so easy to just make an excuse and be like, oh, I can't be that guy. I mean, that guy's lucky. That guy this, that guy that. But just do it. Just take the action, and here you are. So let's talk about where do you want. So right now, what is your main focus?
So people often said to me, you do too much, you're doing too much, which is something that everyone says to everyone at some point when they're starting out. And for me, I'm trying to learn as fast as possible how business works. So I'm trying to understand every element of how a business works, from marketing to sales to growth to employing people to raising money. And I'm trying to go through the mud and the tough stuff now, so that I can deal with. So I know I can deal with any scenario that comes into a smaller organization. Now I'm pretty confident in dealing with it. And now I'm at the point where we just completed a merger, my first kind of big merger with this where I'm sat in right now. We've merged 2 businesses together, and this is my first kind of $5-6 million business where I'm learning how to run this thing. So, and then I'll step it up and do something else. So I'm taking a very gradual journey on it. I'm not a rush person. I do have big ambition, and my friends would say I could save $1 out of $10 if that's all I had to live on. But the journey is just a slow learning journey. So that's what we're doing at the moment. Just now we're taking that next step, figuring out how to run a bigger organization with 50 people instead of an organization with 10 people.
Right.
And then hopefully 500 people next. We'll see.
Well, that's it. And it's incremental, right? It's like people they want that instant right now. But at the end of the day, if they actually got it, they wouldn't be ready for it, because you got to do it in these small stages, because you're learning every step of the way. and you're figuring out and you're pivoting and you're failing forward, and you're going, okay, this works better, this didn't work. And instead of getting all down on yourself, you're going, okay, how can we use this moving forward? And you're just slowly, step by step, growing. And now here you are, you started with something small, it's gotten bigger, now you're about to enter into the next phase where it's even bigger. And like you said, you got that goal even in the horizon of getting to 500 versus 50 employees. But if somebody were to just hand you a business with 500 employees 5 years ago,
you struggle, right? I mean, I'm all up for taking risks, and in the last 8 years, due to the experience, it's all due to learning. Everything's come about because of just the different situations I put myself in. But being able to learn how to raise money, spend money, make money, lose money, employ people, get rid of them, buy businesses, sell them, bring, I've bought multiple things out of bankruptcy, that when people went into bankruptcy, we've taken them out of it. And it's just fascinating what you can actually learn, to be honest with you. It's absolutely fascinating from just doing small business. I think that's the problem that we have in at the moment, is there's so many kids out there that think, I need to start a business and I need to go and make $1 million now. I need to be doing this internet thing. It's that they're forgetting that there's actually millions of businesses right now in wherever they are, millions and millions. They'd learn more running a small cafe than they would running an internet business right now. They'd learn more for their future doing that than they would starting up another e-commerce store. The world has got a lot of them. And
that's exactly right.
You could learn so much by, just taking a look out there and saying, what real businesses, what practical stuff is actually available for me to get involved in. And that, thankfully, I'm a major shareholder in 7 different businesses, and all of them deal with real people. They're real businesses, and they're amazing learning machines. That's how I see it's just an awesome opportunity for a lot of people, especially moving forward, because there's no competition with getting into smaller organizations.
Right. And there's not much competition when you become a learning machine either,
No.
It's like there's not a lot of people out there. How many people your age do you know read every day to better themselves? And let me preface that with, successful people tend to hang around successful people. So chances are you probably actually do know some people. But I guess where I was going with the question, it was kind of a rhetoric question, is, the majority of people out there don't read, and they don't grow, and they don't learn. And again, they just expect it to happen, and then they complain when it doesn't.
True. I think that there's a lot of that mentality in it. People need to realize that their own happiness, their own success is completely down to them. It's not down to anyone else. People don't learn enough, for sure. They realize that maybe people go through phases of doing a little bit here and there, but it's the consistency that matters. And to be honest with you, I think that's probably the main thing I've learned throughout the whole thing. I'm sure you have too. I'm sure every successful person that we speak to has, is the actual main asset is your ability to be consistent. If you can be consistent, and you can be consistent, you can screw things up, but you'll still manage to get yourself out on the other side, as long as you're consistently, working hard and learning. So that's the main thing.
Right. Consistency, taking action, and just keep doing it. And would you agree that it's way easier to reduce the friction and to actually be able to follow through and be consistent when you're doing something that you're super passionate about versus something that you're just doing to make money? And have you experienced both of those things?
1000%. I think that I'm a very creative person, very strategic person. I've been in businesses in the past where I get involved in too much of the doing, and then I lose my love for it. And I've always said, if my kid wants to be the best in the world at piano because that's the thing they love, then that's what we'll push them on, and that's what we'll help them with. It could be anything. I think that 100% you have to have a passion for something, otherwise you won't be able to do the consistency that is required, especially if you want to be the best in it. If you want to be the best doctor, go ahead. If you want to be the best lawyer, go ahead. If you want to be the best teacher, go ahead. Just get on that path and do that. I would like to be, one of my goal is to my dream is to be sat in an office investing. So if I can get myself to that point, that's
Your
great.
dream is to
Everything
what?
be sat in a beautiful office investing money. That is my dream. That's what I want to do, and that's what I love doing. And I thought to get there, I have to do a lot of hard work. But in the meantime, but everything I'm doing now is learning for that time. And but again, if my passion was something else, then I would have done that. That's the main thing with everyone, is they get stuck in this trap of like, if I just make enough money, if I just do this a little bit longer, I'll wait until I'm 30 and have some capital so I can just have a fallback, whatever.
Yeah, I call it the if only trap. If
Yeah,
only I could have $1 million. If only I could have the perfect girlfriend or boyfriend. If only I could lose 50 pounds, then I'd be happy. But it's not about that. It's about continually, like you're saying, consistency and growing and having goals. So like you have a goal, you want to have enough money to be able to sit in an office. And it's funny, as you said that, I can guarantee what's going to happen. Would you like to know? And I do think you're going to hit that goal. Would you like to know what's going to happen? We can write this down, or we can replay this when it does. And you can be like, God, that was right. You're going to sit in this big office and you're going to be investing, and it's going to feel great. And you're then going to say, okay, now what? What's next?
Miss the battlefield.
There is no pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, people.
Exactly.
There is no, once I make it, then it's like, oh, then I'll be happy. It's the continual movement and growth that makes you happy. That's what
progression.
And so, right. So you're going to get to there, and then you're going to go, what's my next goal? Right. And that's, for some, when I figured this out, it was depressing at first to me, because I was like, so basically you're never going to be happy. You're just constantly trying to, but then when you actually understand it and use it to your advantage, it's sweeter than yoo-hoo, because you're like, okay, in order to be happy, I just need to keep growing. I just need to have goals. And if you understand, when I hit a goal, it's going to feel awesome for a little bit. And then I'm going to have to say, okay, what's my next goal? But you're just continually building that momentum and climbing up that ladder. And so sky's the limit. And so it's kind of exciting. It's like, how far can we take this thing?
It is. I mean, I have a coach, and one of the things that we work on, it turns out sometimes, being a business person can sometimes feel quite disorganized. It can feel like, chaotic, which is cool. And some people vibe off that. I do need to be organized to be happy and feel like I'm in control and feel like I'm not, I'm there. And actually, when we broke that down into actually, I need to be feeling progression, constantly. And I need to be, you can break down, as you said, your goals into progression. You can also break down your day into progression, making sure that you feel like, every single day you're being successful, not having a bad day, because, no day needs to be a bad day. You can always, get stuff done. So that helped a lot with dealing with the slight chaos that comes with running a business. It can be quite tough.
It's I mean, so right, I built, I've built a couple businesses, my biggest one being Doorstep Delivery, which we've joined and formed Bite Squad, which then sold to Waiter Holdings. And I mean, some days I just was like, oh my God, like, what am I doing? But that's part of the fun. And you don't realize it at the time, but it's like that quote from Vanilla Sky. You ever see that movie with Tom Cruise?
Mm-hmm.
Vanilla Sky. Yeah. Anybody out there that hasn't seen it, go watch it. It is one of the best movies. It's very underrated. But there's a quote in that. His buddy, I can't remember his name, the actor, Jason something. He says to Tom Cruise, he says, without the bitter, the sweet just ain't as sweet. And I love that quote, because just like what we were talking about, like, you're going to have failures. It's going to sting. It's going to hurt. You're going to stumble along the way. But as long as, like, you have that, like you're saying, that consistency, that persistence, and you keep moving and you keep growing, because you had those stumbles, it's actually going to be that much more rewarding, and it's going to feel that much better when you get there. If somebody just handed it to you on a silver platter, like we talked about at the beginning of this, it's not nearly as gratifying, because you didn't earn it, right? And that's why there's that show, The Lottery Ruined My Life. Because when people get it handed to them, and you haven't built up the conviction, the strength, the values, the knowing what to do with that money, how to grow it, how to keep moving forward, you're screwed.
Yeah, you earn the right. You earn the right to have money, and you earn the right to have to manage it, right? Like, money can be a burden if you don't know how to manage it. And you see it all the time. I personally had the exact experience when I was 8. My step granddad won the lottery and won 3.8 million pounds on the lottery, coming from never earning more than 20 grand a year. Within 7 years, he was dead because he drank himself to death. He drank himself to death and ended up splitting up from my grandma, and they had this lavish lifestyle, but within 7 years the money was gone. And that was a major impact on me as a kid, because I thought, I've seen what money I've seen people go from zero money to having a lot of it, and then to having none again, and then their lives being destroyed. So, and that's exactly what happens when people have money they haven't earned that money. They haven't earned the ability to manage it. It's a cool experience because, it'll teach me, make sure you learn how to use it. So when I do get it, I'll be worthy of it.
So I would slightly change that. I like they haven't earned it, but to me, I would change that to they haven't learned it.
Yeah.
Because it's like, right? It's like, yes, they haven't earned it, but also the main thing and the reason why, and my condolences to you and your family for your grandfather, but that doesn't surprise me. As soon as you told me that, I was like, uh-oh, this isn't going to end well. And sure enough, like as soon as you said he won the lottery, and it's because he didn't learn, like we're saying, how to take those, like get to the point where he knew how to handle that. It was just handed to him. And then it was like, I'm sure there was tons of people reaching their hands out, and that was stressful. Sure. People just think, and I guarantee you he was a lot less happy. At first, that first initial woohoo, but then it was diminishing returns until 7 years later, he was dead. It's just so funny when people we are a money-focused society, and we are becoming more money, power, fame-focused every single day. It's hard to believe because we've been this way for quite a long time, but I mean, statistics, you look at them, social media has definitely accelerated that. We want to just do this and have it all, but that's the huge irony of it all, is that when you just get it, if you don't work for it, if you don't earn it, if you don't learn along the way and change your habits, change your mindset, change your just entire being to be able to, when you get there, handle it and be able to keep growing, you're just gonna be dead in the water.
For sure. And I've seen it. I think I imagine you've seen it as well. I've seen a lot of people make a lot of money and lose a lot of money very fast because they get money, and then they don't know how. As you said, they've not learned how to manage it, and it ends up going. And I've seen that many times. And that's why I think, if you look at the likes of Buffett, I'm a huge fan of. He's averaged something like 17% per annum for 60 years, which is the reason why he's as rich as he is. People nowadays get upset when their stock doesn't move up 40% in 2 days, and then it goes down 40% the next day or something crazy with all these different platforms. And that's the type of mindset that we're in. We're expecting massive gains, and we're okay with huge losses in such a short space of time. And it's crazy. I think you need to be able to just chill out a little bit and really focus on getting better every single day and doing more every single day, if you want true long-term success. You'll see on Instagram a couple people from the fast buck crew making a bit of money, and they end up selling a course next week on how to do that. But the real people that are making the true money, and the real business people that are, have long-term assets and long-term success, they're the ones that are quiet and under the radar and putting the work in every single day. And then when they get to, a little bit later on in their life, they're the ones that we should all listen to, and as they start to teach the world. And
right, the Buffetts of the world. Right, because they've been around and they've seen that stocks don't always just go up, right? Anybody that's a Gen Zer, they've kind of only seen them go up. For the last 12 years, there's been dips, but then they very quickly recover. Whereas in the past, recoveries have taken a lot longer and people had to be a lot more patient, right? Whereas here, look what happened in last March. It was oh, here we go. People were freaking out. And then because I think part of the reason it recovered so fast is because a lot of this younger generation that's now investing and using apps like Robinhood and these online things that it makes it super simple. They're oh, well, it only goes up. So here's a buying opportunity. Whereas the seasoned people, I think, they come in more slowly and strategically. And maybe, in the short run, those people that went all in, maybe they do better. But in the long run, I mean, my prediction is there's a reckoning coming in the stock market.
Me too. We can agree. We can agree on
Yeah.
that. It's coming.
It's coming, right?
Yeah.
It could be next week. It could be 3 years from now. But you look at history, it's just not adding up in terms of the profit
No.
and the earnings. The multiples are just insane. Although I will say there's a small part of me that says, well, maybe this is just the new
Normal.
baseline,
Yeah.
right? Maybe
Yeah.
24 profit to earnings is the new normal versus the old
10.
10.
Yeah.
There's a part of me that thinks that, only because I will say what's changing is, there's this algorithmic trading and technology and all these, like we we're just saying, young people coming into the market and investing. So, I mean, there's nothing to say that a stock, I mean, you look at stocks like Tesla, you saw this stuff that just happened with GameStop, like being able to use the power of social media, get it, and basically being like, let's all go in on this. There's no precedent for that in history,
Mm-hmm. There is
right?
not.
So definitely for certain stocks, but in general, you can't do that for all the stocks. I think a reckoning, but certain ones may be able to hold up because of that.
It's interesting you said about the new normal. I think this whole last year has created a new normal. Like maybe multiples is a new normal. That's an interesting way of looking at it. For sure. I haven't looked at it about that. It's a good point.
Yeah, right on, man.
These equities, these leverage apps are creating new normals in terms of how to buy stock, for sure.
Right. And so, there's like the old wise guys that are saying, be careful, watch out. And I'm on that train for the most part, but I'm also kind of caught in between where I see the other side too.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, yes, but like there's something weird's going to happen. I don't know how it's going to shake out. If I did, I'd be a bazillionaire. That's part of the beauty of the stock market, right? It's like, just when you think you got it figured out, it's like, nope, just kidding. Nope, just kidding again. Just kidding. And it'll also be interesting to see if these regulators, how they just had GameStop or they had Robinhood in the hot seat. And to me, it's like, it's not Robinhood's fault. Like, I thought that whole thing was ridiculous. When they're trying to put put the blame on somebody. Robinhood's, in my opinion, I don't know if you watch any of the hearings, they've done pretty much everything they can to try to avoid this type of stuff, but people are going to do what they're going to do.
Well, they are, and where you can buy fractional shares on leverage it's always going to create a bit of a nightmare in the long run. Right. To be honest, it's always going to happen. It's going to create a bubble. You can buy fractional shares with equity, with debt. It's gonna end badly.
So let's switch gears for a second. So you've done Ironman races?
Yes. Yeah, for sure. It's again one of those other passions. I think that it's something I originally wanted to. I don't know. I watched a video on YouTube and just was like, wow, I want to throw myself and do one of those. It turns out it ended up being a 4-kilometer swim with a 180K bike ride and then a marathon on the end, which is a kind of crazy, just a nuts thing. And I was spending way too much time in the office, and I thought, I'll do something like this to just make myself not work as much, which was great. And it was meant to be a 6-month thing. And then I crashed in the race, and now fast forward 2.5 years, and we're still doing them. So I've been training a lot, and it's a big passion of mine now. This whole triathlon, long distance, put your brain in hell territory. It's wicked.
Good for you, man. Yeah, that to me. That when anybody, I'm always talking about physical health. It's one of the cores. It's so important. You got to have it. But anybody that is able to take it to that next level, especially when you're I call it the firing on all cylinders, right? So clearly, you business and finance, you got that going. You clearly got the physical health going. Well, why don't we talk about these other areas? So your relationships. Do you feel like your relationships are a 5 out of 5, and you're killing it, and with your friends and your family, significant other, colleagues, acquaintances, or do you feel like you've had to sacrifice some of that because of this pursuit of career and finances, and call it, physical health, and you're not able to balance it all?
Totally. I mean, when I was at university, I shut myself off pretty much and wasn't around, didn't do anything that everyone else did. I was kind of like I was hyper focused. And I missed out on a lot of experiences that came from college. And And I do wish I had done more with that. And I think that as I've come out of, as of, the last 5 years of being out of that space, I have more and more, come to terms with that, and tried to, go do more fun things, and etc. I'm lucky that my family are very close to me in terms of work, and there's a lot of connection in the businesses, so I spend a lot of time with them from a work perspective as well as an out of offline perspective. So I think that, yeah, I think it could, if that wasn't the case though, I would definitely not have been able to spend as much time with my family, for sure. I think getting into the next part of my life, when I need to be looking at, when I want to be looking at all of the family and my own situation and stuff like that, then I definitely need to. It definitely needs to be thought about, because again, what I don't want to happen is I don't want to be in a situation where I'm working way too much. I want to be able to like take time off when I have a kid and do all those things, for sure.
So, do you mind if I give you,
Sure.
as the old wise sage that's been
Do
there
it.
and
Give me some advice.
yeah. So, just I feel like you are like a mini me. Just I feel like just we have a similar story. College, we kind of like discovered like zip. That's what, and I threw everything in. My social life was awful for a while, and because I just focused on all these things, the business and the career side mainly, and I did keep up my physical health as well, just like you. And I was building my mindset, so that was another course, so that was good. But the relationship side and the emotional health, the stress and the dwelling and that stuff, I hadn't figured out yet. And those are two key components. Those are these other two cores you got to have. And I got married. You're still very young. You're 26, right? And I think I got married at 30, 37. So, there's no rush. At the same time, you need to make sure, when I look at those 10 years before I got married, I'm so glad that I figured out, like around your age, how important it was to have that social component, to have, the guys' nights, to have the friends, to have, make sure I established connections with my family, didn't let too much time go past, and even just building like around like people in your office, new people you're going to be hiring, like instead of just treating them like employees, instead of just looking at your phone when you're walking by people, make physical eye contact, smile, ask them questions. That was from way back, that first book I ever read, How to Win Friends and Influence People. If I could sum it up in one sentence: make the other person feel important, and you'll never have any problems in life. Just put the attention on them. Take it off of you. It's not about you, right? The most important person in the world to everybody is themselves. And it's amazing how many people don't get that. But when you are able to do that, and then they start getting interest in you, and then you get more interest in them, and it just feeds off of it, and it kind of cycles out. And then before you know it, you've got a group of friends, and you're proactively scheduling in time to spend with them, versus if you're not doing that proactively, a week goes by, a month goes by, 6 months goes by, and you're like, God, I haven't really done anything fun. And I haven't been building out these relationships. So that's my unsolicited advice for you.
I totally agree. We had a bit of a situation a couple of years ago coming out of that space, and just got into this just roundabout with, round and round and round the circles with work and personal life. And so working super hard on because you've got to be consistent there too. You can't just do all this crazy business stuff and be like this focus on being the most consistent, best returning person in work, and then be an asshole in your in your personal life. So 100%, 1000%. And that's kind of why I decided to take this year I'm really working on kind of working in the businesses a lot less, taking some time to do something that's a bit different, and which is why I got involved with the foundation that we talked about, because I want to showcase to other younger people that their education is absolutely the most important thing, whether or not it's an actual proper paid for education, or if it's their own self education. Like, that is the most important thing they should be doing right now as they develop it. That without a doubt, the main thing, for sure.
Love it. Well, good. So now I'm going to call you out on that 10 years from now.
You will do it.
I'm going to set my watch right now. So last question. I always like to end with this. Successful guy, you're close to firing all cylinders. You maybe not quite there yet, but if you were, what's the fun in that, right? So you're going to get there. You've got the right mindset. Mindset's the first thing. That's the key. And you've got the right mindset. Just going to keep building, growing, becoming bigger, better, faster, stronger. Obstacles are temporary roadblocks. You're going to figure it out. What is the one habit that you feel like you have developed that has made the biggest impact on your life?
Great question.
I know it's a big one. So
there's probably two, to be honest. The first one is always be saving, always save money, always put whatever you earn, whatever the bills are, always make sure that in whatever situation you're in, there's money being added to your personal capital, as I like to call it, because that's what's going to take you forward to do whatever you need to do. So if you earn $1,000 a month or even $50,000 a month, always make sure that you're doing that. And I call it my tax. I tax myself, now, in quite a large percentage of my income now, whereas before it would be tiny. So that's kind of a habit that I've always had ever from day one. And as I said before, I was the master. My nickname in university and college was Budget Bardsley, because I would be able to figure out how to, I could go on a full night out and do pre-drinks, as we call it in the UK. So it's like drinks before you actually go to the club. I could do the whole thing on like 10 pounds, which is like $15. So I was good at it.
Great talent to have, because you're right. If you're aware and you go, you know what, I can have just much fun for 10 pounds versus somebody else spending 50. And it's almost, you gamify it. You gamify that part of your life. And I'm always telling people, gamify everything. Like, make it fun, make it a game. Be like, can I do this? And then when you do it, how great does it feel? Like, you almost feel like you got away with something.
So like, always be saving. Yeah.
You're always be saving. ABS.
Always be saving. That's a really important. That's something I live by massively. With everything in business as well. Is always be kind of building capital for sure. And then the second one is simply just always be learning, just a constant learning. Like, people always listening to Audible. Every time I drive a lot, and I'm always listening to it. I've listened to what John D. Rockefeller. I'm reading about him at the moment, and he's someone that's a massive passion for me. I'm on my third attempt. I'm on my third time through his 36-hour Audible. So I'm like 80 hours into reading or listening to this dude. I have to listen to it, I think, a few times to get them, but I think just always be learning. So just wherever you're driving, you'd be crazy if you listen to Audible every time you drove for a month. You'd be absolutely astounded with how much stuff
I'm
you
with
got
you.
through.
Audibles are great. It goes back to our conversation earlier. We were saying, like, it's so much easier now. There's like the friction is
Crazy.
so there's no excuse. Like, you didn't used to be able to just drive and pop something in that easily, anyways. Right? I mean, and I mean, when you had a tape, it's like if you wanted to go to a certain part, it was impossible to fast forward or whatnot. Now you can just take your hand finger and go, oh, I've listened to this before. Yep, I know that part. I'm going to go to this part because that's what I want to understand more. And good for you for read. I've reread that book we talked about earlier, How to Win Friends and Influence People, probably
It's a good book.
10 times. I've read, Think and Grow Rich multiple times. Atomic Habits. I'm on my third read right now. Lots of them, because you get so much. First time you read things, it's impossible to get it all. I mean, you're going to have a lot of inspiration and, I need to do this, I need to do that. But then what happens? Most people they don't do anything with that. And because it doesn't happen right away, like we were talking about earlier, then they just go back to their lives. But when you start to read it more, and I always take notes when I'm a crazy note taker. Whenever I read something, I'm like, okay, this fits here, this fits here. I like to look at the world as a puzzle that I put together. And so
100%.
That's the way to do it.
Awesome.
Well, Josh, this was awesome. Thank you for
so
coming on, man. It's always great to have young, inspirational. You're considered Gen Z, right? Still?
I think so. I think I'm on the borderline. I think I'm on I'm on the borderline Gen Z millennial type, but we'll get in there.
Well, good for you, man, for all the success, continued success. I know we're working together.
For sure.
So let's keep that going. Let's keep the synergy going, and love it, man. Thanks, buddy. Keep building momentum. Good having you.
Thank you so much, Will. Thank you so much.
Right.
Good to see you. Cheers, man. Bye.
That's it for the 5 Core Life. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that like button on this video and pound that subscribe button so you get notified when new episodes drop. Also, please fill out the free 5 Core Life Evaluator quiz. It's a great way to get a baseline of where you are in the 5 cores and which of the 5 cores you need support In addition, you'll get some actionable advice that you can apply and start improving your life in the areas that you need it most. That's it for today's episode of the 5 Core Life Podcast. Have a wonderful day.
Get moving. Gain momentum. Join the movement. Join Emmett by going to moremomentum.com to take a free life evaluator quiz on where you currently stand in each of your 5 cores.